taught me to help the less fortunate and be more loving and caring.
My mom has taught me to be a better friend and having a giving heart.
My mom has taught me how to be a better person and how to live a better Christian life.
Our mother taught us to appreciate a job well done.
If you're going to kill each other, do it outside. I just finished cleaning.
Our mom taught us religion.
You better pray that'll come out of the carpet.
Our mom taught us about time travel.
If you don't straighten up, I'm going to knock you in the middle next week.
My mom taught us logic.
Because I said so, that's why.
Our mother taught us foresight.
Make sure you wear clean underwear in case you're in an accident. True story.
Our mom taught us about irony.
Keep crying and I'll give you something to cry about.
And she did. Our mom taught us about stamina.
You'll sit there until all those green peas are gone.
Our mom taught us about weather.
This room, whatever.
Taught
This room of yours looks like as if a tornado went through it.
Our mom taught us about the circle of life.
I brought you into this world and I can sure take you out of it.
Our mom taught us about envy.
There are millions of less fortunate children in this world who don't have wonderful parents like you do.
Our mom taught us about anticipation.
Just wait till we get home.
Our mom taught us about receiving.
You're going to get it when we get home.
Our mom taught us about medical science.
If you don't stop crossing your eyes, they're going to get stuck that way.
So, our mom taught us about our roots.
Shut the door behind you. Do you think you were born in a barn? No.
Our mom taught us wisdom.
When you get to be my age, you'll understand.
And our favorite, our mom taught us about justice.
One day you'll have kids, and I hope they turn out just like you.
What is the best thing my mom's taught me? This is tough because there's so much that I could say, but for the sake of time, I'll just name a few. One is to treat others the way you'd want to be treated. Always see the good in people and never talk bad about anyone. Another is to keep your word. If you've asked mom to keep a secret, trust me, she's kept it. Be encouraging. You don't have to be the very best, but as long as you've tried, that's all that was ever asked. Keep your faith and always go to God in prayer. And I could say so much more, but I've always just aspired to be just like her. I love her with all my heart.
As I was growing up, I always saw and experienced my mom's relationships with others and her compassion and love towards them. And I'm still learning to be more like that. But I do think that's definitely something that she tried to teach me. We were always able to talk about everything and always shared everything together. So that made me feel very safe and trusted. And it made me feel like it was okay to doubt or to wonder. And my mom has been such a blessing in my life and a wonderful mother and a teacher of many things. And I hope that I'm passing on some of the great things she taught me to others. Thanks, Mom.
One thing that I learned from my mom when I was young and, well, all my life, when things were tight and struggling, one phrase she always would repeat is Romans 8:28. Her paraphrase was, "You know that all things work together for good to them who love the Lord." And as I look back in life, I can see that. I can see where God had his handiwork in my life. And for my grandmother, I've got to add her in there because Jackie and I were eating lunch, Sunday lunch over at Mom and Dad's. When Dad's mom was living with them, she was standing, it was springtime, she was standing in the kitchen and leaned out and told Dad, as he's sitting in his lazy boy reading his Sunday paper, "Joe, go down and get me some onions from the garden." Dad sit up in his chair, told me to get up, said, "Reggie, go get your granny some onions out of the garden." My grandmother quickly turned around and said, "Joe, I told you to go get me some onions." So my dad jumped up out of his lazy boy and went and got those onions. So moms always have control no matter where you're at. Happy Mother's Day. Thank you.
My mom has taught me a lot of things. One of the things that I really appreciate that she taught me was how to be independent and to learn to do things on my own and explore new ideas and new places and just try new things. And she really gave me the confidence to go out and, you know, explore new things and not be afraid to go out on a limb sometimes. And I really appreciate the good Christian example she's always set for all of us. And I just love you, and happy Mother's Day.
My mother has taught me so many things, but the one thing that really stands out to me is how she taught me to treat everyone equally. I remember when I was growing up, we'd always have lots of people over to the house, and she always treated everyone with love and respect. And I noticed that about her even when I was very young, and I really tried to exemplify that in my own life. And I'm grateful that she taught me that at a very young age as I was growing up. We love you, Mom.
So my mom, like they said, has taught me a lot of things. Two things that I think she really taught me and exemplified for me was being curious and being bold. She taught me to be curious about learning new things, whether it be with school or knowledge about the Bible or God. She always taught me to be curious and to look for answers myself and to just try to figure things out on my own. She also taught me to be bold with decisions that I make and just with being confident in myself and being bold to stand up for what I believe in and stand up for others. And I really appreciate those things that she's taught me.
One thing I learned from Mom is to put duct tape over the sink when people are not putting their dishes in the dishwasher. But more importantly, my mom taught me to see the bad times as an opportunity for something good. Not everything will work out how you want it to, but I learned from her you can take any situation and make it into something good. Happy Mother's Day,
Happy Mother's Day, Mom. We love you.
My mom taught me how to love other people with all that you have, to be radically generous with your time, effort, encouragement, and resources. She taught me that our mission on this earth is to love other people well. So thanks, Mama.
Choosing the best thing my mom has taught me it's a difficult question. You know, the number of important life lessons she's taught me is too many to count, much less pick a most important one. So I can't really answer in that spot. But I think I'm gonna go with her baking that she's taught me, especially how to make her cookies. That's probably the one I use the most.
One thing she taught me was tone. It's not what you said, it's the way you said it. For example, I said I was sorry.
So my mom taught me reasoning because I said so. It's always a good reason, apparently. And she taught me art appreciation by putting my scribbles or anything I did at school up on the refrigerator for everyone to see.
Happy Mother's Day to all the mothers out there listening and watching. Moms are such an important play such an important role in each of our lives, and it's a joy to celebrate you guys today. So I think the most important thing that my mom taught me was hospitality, just how to use your home to bless and to serve others, to invite them in, have a welcoming space that others feel at home, and to just entertain and just love on people by using your home. So,
my mom taught me about pain. You better stop crying, or I'm going to give you something to cry about.
My mom taught me countless things about life, and it would take me all day to talk about them, so here's just a couple. She taught me about genetics. She'd say, "You're acting just like your dad." She also taught me about sacrifice. My mom and stepdad lived in a tiny apartment for 2 years so I could attend Bible college. Well, I earned that degree, and I'm now using it to point others to Jesus. I hope it was worth it, and I hope I made you proud. I love you, Mommy, and I hope that I get to see you again soon. Sorry I can't be there this year.
Special thanks to all our church family that participated in that video. The faces you didn't recognize in there were my sisters, and I wanted to give a special thanks to them as well for participating. So mothers teach us a lot. Some good, some bad, some funny, some sad. But regardless, mothers teach us all the time. And sometimes we listen and sometimes we don't. So thank you, mothers, for the things that you have taught us all. We can never thank you enough. And I know many of you, if you had a good mother, there were numerous things that probably came to mind when you thought about that question. What is the best thing that your mom taught you? But if you had a bad mother, it may be harder to find something good you learned from your mom. You may be thinking, the only good thing I learned from my mom was what not to do. And so please know, when I say mother in the sermon, this doesn't necessarily mean the woman that gave birth to you. If you didn't have a good mom growing up, but you had a motherly figure in your life growing up, or that you currently still have in your life, think about that person, right? Think about the good mothers that come to your mind. But whether you're a mother or not, whether you had a good mother or not, I think we can all learn something from this lesson today. So if you haven't caught on yet, we are going to be talking about what godly mothers teach us. So go with me over to 1 Samuel chapter 1 as we explore that idea of what godly mothers teach us. So 1 Samuel 1, we learn that godly mothers teach us to bring our burdens to God and boldly ask for his blessing. Right, 1 Samuel 1 begins with this man named Elkanah, and he had two wives, and one was called Hannah and the other Peninnah. And Peninnah had children, but Hannah had none. So every year Elkanah would go up to Shiloh and worship and sacrifice to the Lord there. And he would give a portion of the meat for the sacrifice for his wife Peninnah and the children, but Hannah received a double portion because she wasn't able to have children. So year after year, Peninnah would brag about this, would boast about it, being able to have children, and it would irritate Hannah, so much so that she would not eat, which is where we're going to pick up the text this morning in 1 Samuel chapter 1, verse 8. Her husband Elkanah would say to her, Hannah, why are you weeping? Why don't you eat? Why are you downhearted? Don't I mean more to you than 10 sons? Once when they had finished eating and drinking in Shiloh, Hannah stood up. Now Eli the priest was sitting on his chair by the doorpost of the Lord's house. And in her deep anguish, Hannah prayed to the Lord, weeping bitterly. And she made a vow, saying, Lord Almighty, if you will look on your servant's misery and remember me, then I will, and not forget your servant, but give her a son. Then I will give him to the Lord for all the days of his life, and no razor shall ever be used on his head. Continuing verse 12. As she kept on praying to the Lord, Eli observed her mouth. Hannah was praying in her heart, and her lips were moving, but her voice was not heard. Eli thought she was drunk and said to her, How long are you going to stay drunk? Put away your wine. Not so, my lord. Hannah replied, I am a woman who is deeply troubled. I have not been drinking wine or beer. I was pouring out my soul to the Lord. Do not take your servant for a wicked woman. I have been praying here out of my anguish and my grief. And Eli answered, Go in peace, and may the God of Israel grant you what you have asked of him. She said, May your servant find favor in your eyes. And then she went her way and ate something, and her face was no longer downcast. And early the next morning they arose and worshipped before the Lord, and then went back to their home at Ramah. And Elkanah made love to his wife Hannah, and the Lord remembered her. And so in the course of time, Hannah became pregnant and gave birth to a son, and she named him Samuel because I asked the Lord for him. Hannah had a huge burden. She was barren and desperately wanted a child of her own. Yet she didn't sulk. Instead, she boldly went to God and asked for the blessing of a child. We all have burdens in our life, especially now with the uncertainty of health and jobs and economy. These are things that are weighing us down. But Hannah teaches us, and godly mothers teach us, that we shouldn't wallow in pity over those things, but instead boldly ask God for his blessing. I mean, think about it. How many times have you gone to your mom or that motherly figure in your life with a problem and she goes, Have you taken it to God yet? What do moms always say? Have you prayed about it? Have you asked God to bless you in this area that you're struggling in? Godly mothers teach us that if we have a burden, we need to bring it to God and to trust in his promises. The second thing is that godly mothers teach us that we are God's child first and then theirs. Again, in 1 Samuel chapter 1, this time verse 21. When her husband Elkanah went up with all his family to offer the annual sacrifice to the Lord and to fulfill his vow, Hannah did not go. She said to her husband, "After the boy is weaned, I will take him and present him before the Lord, and he will live there always." "Do what seems best to you," her husband Elkanah told her. "Stay here until you have weaned him. Only may the Lord make good his word." So the woman stayed at home and nursed her son until she had weaned him. And after he was weaned, she took the boy with her, young as he was, along with a 3-year-old bull, an ephah of flour, and a skin of wine, and brought him to the house of the Lord at Shiloh. And when the bull had been sacrificed, they brought the boy to Eli, and she said to him, "Pardon me, my lord. As surely as you live, I am the woman who stood here beside you, praying to the Lord. I prayed for this child, and the Lord has granted me what I asked of him. And so now I give him to the Lord. For his whole life he will be given over to the Lord." And he worshipped the Lord there. Godly mothers realize that you are God's child first. Hannah wanted a child so bad that she went up to the temple for years, praying and begging God for a child. And when she finally gets her son Samuel, she doesn't go and forget about God like he was some kind of genie that granted her wish, but instead he gives her what she wants, and she dedicates the life of the boy to God and to his work. Right? It made me think of a similar story from when my sister wanted to go overseas to serve as a missionary. My sister Taylor, you met her earlier in the video, she had this desire to serve as a missionary overseas. So she began to talk to my mom about the possibility of doing it. And initially my mom was not too excited about it, right? She was a little nervous and worried about the dangers of it. And so my sister kind of let that conversation go for a little bit and waited to have it at a later time. And so a while later, the topic came up again, and my mom kind of had this change of heart. Or rather, God changed her heart. When my sister brought up the possibility of applying for this missionary program to serve for 2 years overseas, my mom had kind of warmed up to the idea. And this time around, she said, "I came to the realization that you're God's child first, and I don't want to get in the way of the plans that he has for you." And that's a lot like Hannah with her son Samuel, right? Giving him over to be used in service to the Lord. That's what godly mothers do. They realize that we are God's child first and then theirs. As hard as it may be, they don't want to get in the way of God's promises for our life. And the last thing is godly mothers teach us how to pray. Right? 1 Samuel 2, after Hannah is given a son and she dedicates her son to serving the Lord, we get a prayer. And Hannah says a prayer of thanks and rejoicing. Check it out in 1 Samuel 2, verse 1. Then Hannah prayed and said, "My heart rejoices in the Lord. In the Lord my horn is lifted high. My mouth boasts over my enemies, for I delight in your deliverance. There is no one holy like the Lord. There is no one besides you. There is no rock like our God. Do not keep talking so proudly, or let your mouth speak such arrogance. For the Lord is a God who knows, and by him deeds are weighed. The bows of the warriors are broken, but those who stumbled are armed with strength. Those who were full hired themselves out for food, but those who were hungry are hungry no more. She who was barren has borne 7 children, but she who has had many sons pines away. The Lord brings death and makes alive. He brings down to the grave and he raises up. The Lord sends poverty and wealth. He humbles and he exalts. He raises the poor from the dust and lifts the needy from the ash heap. He seats them with princes and has them inherit a throne of honor. And for the foundations of the earth are the Lord's. On them he has set the world. He will guard the feet of his faithful servants, but the wicked will be silenced in the place of darkness. It is not by the strength that one prevails, Those who oppose the Lord will be broken. The Most High will thunder from heaven. The Lord will judge the ends of the earth. He will give strength to his king and exalt the horn of his anointed. And then Elkanah went home to Ramah. But the boy ministered before the Lord under Eli the priest. Hannah teaches us to pray. Godly mothers teach us how to pray. After all the Lord has done for her, she sits down and gives him thanks and praise for the blessing of a child, for the God's perfect timing, for his provisions, and for the way he works in her life. Right? Godly mothers teach us how to pray. When things are good or when things are bad, godly mothers still go to the Father in prayer. And they teach us to do the same thing. Always go to the Father in prayer. Hannah is such a wonderful example of a godly mother. She teaches us so much about what a godly mother should look like. A godly mother should teach you to give your burdens to God and to realize you are God's child first, and to always pray to God, giving thanks and praise for his wonderful deeds. So the interesting thing about all this is that the same things that godly mothers teach us are the things that we hope every professing Christian learns as well. Right? If we had to summarize what every Christian should realize, it might include some similar language. Right? Every Christian should bring their burdens to God and to boldly ask for his blessing. Every Christian should realize they are God's child first and foremost. And every Christian should learn to pray. But as any mother might say, they don't want you to just learn those things for yourself. They want you to teach those same principles. So as we depart today, that is the challenge for you. To find someone you can teach these things to, and to be that godly mother for someone else, to be that spiritual mother for someone else, to be that discipler of Jesus to someone else in the same way that someone has done it for you. Because that's what this life is all about. And that is what Jesus calls us to do when he tells us to make disciples. And so while we currently don't have a way for you to come forward through this computer screen to receive prayer or baptism, we are still here for you. If you want those things, we will be here. If you need prayer for something, if you want to talk to someone about being baptized, if you just need to chat with someone because you're stuck in your house and you need someone to talk to, that's okay. Our ministers, our staff, our elders, and our church family are just a call or text away. So don't hesitate to contact anyone if you need anything. And again, happy Mother's Day to all the mothers out there. Don't forget to call your moms and your spiritual moms this Mother's Day. Thank you so much for joining us. God bless, and we hope to see you all again soon.